Popping in. So I'm going to go ahead. If people miss something, they can ask questions in the chat. And so I just want to welcome everybody to the first annual conference we're having called It's Time, Making the End of Life Part of Life. This is our second session, and I'm so glad you all can attend. And we're here today because of the generous support of our members, which is Sutter Care at Home Roseville, Sutter Care at Home Sacramento, and UC Davis Hospice. They all work collaboratively on these programs, as well as volunteer training, community outreach, and just supporting the work of us having these types of events and conversations. So in addition, you've heard me say this before, the Sacramento Hospice Consortium is a 501c3. And so though we have members, we also gladly and appreciate contributions. So over the course, before we end this conference, I'll send out information on how you can possibly support our mission. So a few things. There is a chat box at the bottom that usually everybody can see, and our first speaker, Marissa, which I'll talk a little bit more about her in a minute, will be monitoring as well. You also have the ability of posting a question. The other thing I wanted to talk about is both Marissa and then CJ, who will be doing the second section of this today, would like to see some faces on the screen. It's kind of hard to talk to yourself and interact without that face-to-face that we're all kind of missing in a lot of ways, right? So if you would be interested, there's CJ, if you would be interested in being on screen for this first part, or even just the second part, there's CJ.
Hello.
Hi, CJ. Can you turn your camera off real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Very good, thanks. If you will go down and raise your hand, I think at the bottom of the screen, I'll be monitoring that, and I'll put you on screen. I'll promote you to panelist, so you'll get an invite to become a panelist.
I can't turn my screen off.
Okay, CJ, down in the left corner, there should be something that says stop video. Thanks, there you go. No problem. And mute your mic. That'll be helpful as well. We're all maneuvering through these technology things, right? But thank goodness we have this so we can connect. So anyways, raise your hand, and you can see Lenora as a panelist above. Lenora Sisk is our volunteer training coordinator, and she's my behind the scenes helper. So we'll be monitoring these things. So as we go along, if you do, like I said, raise your hand or put in the chat that you don't mind being on camera. I know some may be in their pajamas and maybe not want to. That's fine too. Let us know. And let's see. Well, today's topic, before I get into it too far, it's, self-compassion, putting your oxygen mask on first. And I would like to share a little bit. If you guys know me at all, you know I share every time that this topic could not be more timely in my life. Starting last Friday, I've had so many friend and family life events happen that have required me to be present and show up for people while still feeling all the torment raging inside of me. And it's been really tough. And it culminated with a call yesterday about a friend who was put in the ICU in a town 2 hours away. My first inclination was to get in the car, go down there and be with the family and be a support system for them, because that's just kind of what I do, right? But I'm exhausted. I'm emotionally drained. There wasn't much to give, and a part of me was still going to push through it. And then I decided not to. And then the next step I took was to start beating myself up about it, saying, oh my God, Brenda, you can do it for everybody else and blah, 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 right? So I took a breath and I mindfully checked in, and I thought, is that how you would talk to a friend that was going through this? Would you be harsh with them because they made a decision that for themselves? And I thought, no. So I applied some self-compassion, and I was kind to myself. I had a conversation and said, honey, you know what you've been through. You can't be a support if you're collapsing on them down there. So I could be a better support being home, taking care of myself and sending love and prayers. So I'm super excited to hear from our speaker today and get some of the tools. And then when she's done, we'll go into our second session and I will introduce CJ Noddings, who will help us with some additional things. So that all being said, as I was reading her session description, inside I'm going, yes, this is so perfect. So I'm going to read it to you again. You may have seen it online. This session will define the core elements of self-compassion and discuss how it can support health, relationships, work, and well-being. It will include brief experiential exercises that can be integrated into daily activities to reduce burnout and boost resilience. Yes. Participants will develop a personal self-compassion practice through building upon current resources and incorporating new skills. So, very excited to introduce to you Marissa Knox, who is a PhD, and she's trained in mindful self-compassion as a teacher and focuses on self-compassion and emotional resilience in her research. In her recent projects, she supported the adaptation of a brief self-compassion curriculum for healthcare professionals and implemented interventions to reduce their stress and improve coping. Marissa has taught self-compassion programs to mental health professionals, educators, students, and parents of children with chronic and complex illnesses. So I'd like to welcome to the screen Marissa Knox and look forward to spending the next hour with her.
Thank you so much, Brenda. I'm really grateful and honored to be here with all of you and to be able to have this conversation. You know, I find that this is a co-created experience when we are talking about what all of this means. I have my own personal favorite flavors of practicing self-compassion and embodying these tools, but so do all of you. And so I want to just welcome creativity and interaction in this presentation today. So feel free to use the chat, ask questions, and hopefully it will be everything that you need. So I'm going to share my screen and include some slides in a little bit because I think it can be helpful to have some concrete things to look at, some images, and if you're a note taker, these slides have some main points to look at, but I'll also be looking at the chat so we can stay connected throughout all of this. So here we go. So I have this beautiful image as my first slide, and I just like to say having little things that remind me of what nourishes me in my life, whether it's a beautiful phone background or an image on my presentation, is just like a little nudge to myself to remember the things that bring me joy and connect me to feelings of inspiration and wholeness. And so that's just a little secret to put those things in your way so you see them all the time. So I just wanted to outline where we're going to be going today together. And first, as Brenda was explaining, you know, in the description that I wrote, we're going to talk about self-compassion as self-care, what that really means, defining it in some concrete terms, and then also how that relates to caring for others and being in relationship with people that we know and love, and being in relationship with people that are going through a difficult time. And then finally ending with seeing how our values and living with integrity is a way to really practice self-compassion throughout our lives in everything that we're doing and how we arrange our activities and our relationships. So I'm just starting with this poem here. This is one of my favorite poets, Mayra Wahid. And she says, "There is you and you. This is a relationship. This is the most important relationship. And that's home." And so the reason why this topic is so exciting and fulfilling for me to focus on in my work, aside from just needing to remember these skills personally, the relationship that we have with ourselves really defines and supports the relationships that we have with the world, with nature, with each other, and everything is in relationship. And so understanding the fundamentals of relationship, beginning with our own selves, is one of the most empowering and meaningful things to spend your time doing. So the first practice, I'm going to jump right into practice because I think we can get really intellectual about some of these topics. You know, I do research on this. There's a lot of research to support the benefits of self-compassion, but that doesn't really do anything unless you're experiencing it within you and you really understand what it feels like on a tactile level to be compassionate to yourself. So this exercise is usually call and response. And because of the format, that's okay. We're going to do something a little different. And I will be responding what I imagine you might be calling out. But the first thing I'll have you do, wherever you are, is bring your hands into tight fists. And you can close your eyes as you feel this, or you don't have to. But just notice as you hold your hands here in real tight fists, how that feels. Maybe there's physical sensations in your fists you're noticing. Maybe there's thoughts that are coming up, or maybe there's emotions. Holding your fists really tightly. Often the things that come up for people is tension, perhaps frustration or anger, discomfort. Maybe you're feeling some of those things. Maybe you're feeling something I didn't mention. Whatever you're feeling is valid. The longer we hold here, maybe the more intense the sensations get. But this is a representation of actually what's the opposite of self-compassion, which is self-judgment. And this is often when we're going through difficult times, how we respond to life. We're holding on really tightly to how we think things should be, what we should have done, should have said. We're fighting against what is, resisting the truth of difficulty that we're facing. And we hold on to these shoulds and we beat ourselves up, and we think sometimes that this is, you know, the strong way to respond. But in reality, the longer we hold our hands here, the weaker these muscles get. The tighter and shorter and weaker they will get. And so self-compassion is not about pushing things away, wishing them to be a certain way, fighting ourselves to be something other than who we are. It's about opening our palms. So finally, open your palms. Just noticing what thoughts and emotions and sensations might be showing up for you in this gesture. Sometimes there's pain in letting go as the sensation floods back into your palms. Or maybe it's a pleasureful feeling of relief. Maybe openness. This is a gesture of the first fundamental element of self-compassion, which is mindfulness. Something many of you may be very familiar with, and something that is deceptively simple to define and to practice. But one of my favorite ways to define mindfulness is remembering. And that's where the Sanskrit root of the term comes from. The word mindfulness in Sanskrit is smrti, which means to remember, essentially. And so mindfulness is about remembering and being present, neither holding on or pushing away, but just being open to the truth of what is. And there's spaciousness here. And when we're mindful with our own experience, and we notice how we're feeling, that's what allows us to take care of ourselves and to give ourselves what we need to process our emotions. But if we're rushing around, holding on to things, keeping ourselves busy, shoulding on ourselves to feel a certain way, it's really hard to notice what we need. That's where mindfulness comes in. And the next gesture is to extend out your arms. And whenever I teach this, I say, you know, how does this feel aside from awkward? Because often doing this gesture can feel kind of awkward when you don't know why you're doing it. But that's the beauty of being in our own homes, doing these things. And if your camera's off, you're just kind of like, huh, what does this feel like? Maybe it reminds you of something. You might feel tension in your shoulders. You might feel expansiveness across your chest. Maybe it reminds you of hugging or embracing. But this is a gesture to remind us of our common humanity. This is the next major component of self-compassion. We're mindful of what we're feeling, and we're acknowledging our common humanity, that we are not separate from other people, and that being imperfect, having difficult experiences, feeling pain is a necessary part of being human. We feel pain and have different difficulties based on identities that we hold in our relationship to different structures and institutions. But being human includes difficulty of various sorts. And all of the difficulties we experience are worthy of compassion. And that's where we can bring our hands to our heart. And just notice receiving this gesture from yourself, maybe feeling the warmth of your body, the beat of your heart. Maybe you take a fuller, deeper breath. But this is a gesture of self-kindness, of being willing to meet ourselves however we feel, with care and warmth and concern. Because we're here and we matter, what we feel matters. Instead of judging ourselves, instead of isolating ourselves, saying, I'm the only one who messes up or feels pain or sadness, we come back to ourselves with kindness. And maybe this gesture is not comfortable for you, and that's totally okay as well. What's neat about self-compassion is the inherent creativity of figuring out what it means for you to be kind to yourself. And finding a supportive gesture is one of my favorite practices and ways to contact and access our inner resource of self-compassion. It's not something that we have to go learn and develop. It's already within us, in our compassion for other living beings. We just have to remember to give it to ourselves. And so what we can do, you can do this as you're listening to me. You can explore what different postures of your hands feels like, if it feels supportive. Sometimes bringing hands to the back of the neck is a really soothing way to comfort ourselves. Maybe just resting the hands on the thighs. Sometimes squeezing down the shoulders from muscle to bone. The pressure can be really grounding. All the way down into the forearms. Maybe just gently massaging your hands. Sometimes it's really nice to massage your jaw. So there's all kinds of ways that we can be with our physical body in a really loving way. And on a physiological level, this can tell us that we are okay, give our nervous system a chance to regulate and to reduce the stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, and bring in oxytocin and tell us we're okay, we can take deeper breaths, we can rest and digest. Just with a simple gesture of support. So just explore what feels natural for you. Sometimes a soft blanket is really supportive and soothing, or an animal, or we're holding a warm cup of tea or coffee. These are also tactile ways that we can ignite self-compassion within us. So hopefully that embodied experience also was a way of grounding and centering. We're on screens more than usual, and so it's helpful to remember, like, we're in this body and to feel our sensations, because that is where self-compassion begins, right inside of you. So I'm going to break down the elements a little bit more, and then offer a real micro practice for each one. So I think one of the obstacles we might find to giving ourselves compassion and practicing this type of self-care is thinking that it has to be a whole 30 to 60-minute thing, get a massage, you know, go for a walk, do something really involved or costly. And self-compassion is at a moment's notice, available literally at the tips of your fingers, always and already within you. And you can do it when you're at the bedside of someone who's struggling. You can do it between working with people. So hopefully these practices will really fill up your tool belt and you can use them as needed. So mindfulness, as we talked about, is the first foundational pillar to self-compassion. And this is, again, in opposition to how we might respond to difficulty when we try to disconnect, avoid, push away, or we get really over-exaggerated of our feelings and lose perspective and things become magnified. So mindfulness gives us this chance to process our experience and give ourselves what we need. So here are a few of my favorite practices that you can do in 10, 20 seconds. So wherever you are, however you're being, sitting, standing, laying, it helps if your feet are in contact with the ground, but that's not totally necessary. It's just feel the soles of your feet. And if you're having a hard time feeling them, maybe you can curl your toes or lift your heels and then bring your feet down. If you're willing and able to, you can stand up and feel the soles of your feet as you rock back and forth. And I'm just going to be silent for a few seconds and just notice, feeling the soles of your feet, notice what that's like. And for me, I noticed just a natural calming effect. No magic, you know, like nothing extraordinary is happening. I'm literally just like, how do my feet feel? And often it's easy if there's any pain there to have a whole story about, oh, my foot's hurting or something like that. But just getting ourselves to train our minds to just focus on sensation actually takes us out of the thinking brain, which is where we can really develop spirals about what's happening and start to worsen our stress response and get into the sensing body. And so you can do this with the palms of your hands too. And I like to rub my hands together or to shake my hands as a way to make them more salient in my attention, doing that for a few minutes and then releasing the hands, and same thing, putting your attention in the palms of your hands. Just noticing, I feel really subtle sensations, tingling, swirling. There's so much happening in there that I'm often not even paying attention to when I'm caught up in the day's activities. And so, you know, we're washing our hands perhaps more than ever before. This can be a really beautiful time to just really feel the sensation of the soap and the water and the massaging of our hands and being present and letting that be an act of compassion and presence. And then my next favorite practice is breathing, which is very commonly recommended as stress management and all kinds of things. And sometimes it's easy to just be like, oh, yeah, whatever, another breathing exercise. But what this practice does, when we breathe out, we're breathing out through the mouth as if we're blowing out a straw. And this allows the exhale to get so long. So the longer the exhale, the more that we can tell our nervous system again, hey, it's okay, you're safe, you can relax, there's no threat here, and we can feel the regulation of our bodies. And so we'll just do 3 breaths, really simple. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth like there's a straw in your mouth. Just like that again, you might notice, wow, this is the longest exhale I've ever had. Giving yourself one more breath, maybe inhaling a little bit deeper. And just noticing. Maybe there's a more spaciousness in your mind, the softening in your shoulders. Maybe nothing's changed, and that's okay too. I just wanted to give you a few different options of ways that you can slow down the mind from getting caught up in stories and thoughts and returning to the body where so much wisdom is. And the last one is just listening for sound, listening for sound within your body, within the room you're in, seeing how far you can hear sound. I also just love putting on a good song. So using any of your senses can be a way to practice mindfulness and connect to the wisdom and the richness and the possibility of this moment. And the next main element of self-compassion is this experience of common humanity, understanding our experiences of being human are shared. They're not identical, very different context, but we all feel pain and sadness and grief. We all die, we all feel loss. And so this is in contrast to the isolation that we can often feel when we're struggling, thinking, I'm the only one who's made this mistake, who's felt this way. And realizing that imperfection is common to just human life. This idea that life is supposed to be this perfect thing is false. And so of course it's always different what types of pain we're experiencing, what types of suffering we have. We all have different identities and different relationships, but all of our pain is worthy of compassion. And so some of the ways you can cultivate common humanity was when you're having a hard time reaching out. So often our inclination is to isolate ourselves, thinking we have to fix our mood or we need to, I don't know, that there's some weakness in asking for help. I think our culture can sometimes communicate that, but reaching out, just being witnessed by someone else and realizing, oh, they can understand, they relate, or they're here to hold space with me and for me. It's really powerful. And then reading other people's stories, people are sharing their stories about struggle more and more, can be really comforting. And then one of my favorite practices that we'll do in a brief moment here is having gratitude for the interconnection that makes our lives possible. To think that we are separate individuals is just a total misunderstanding of how the world works. And then, on different spiritual levels, of course, our interconnection is even more potent. But just on a real physical level, you can pick an object in your vicinity. I'm going to choose my water bottle. And just think about, first of all, the water that's in here, all the people that helped this water become the way it is, to be purified the way it is, come through the pipes of my apartment building from whatever water resource it comes from. I probably should pay attention to where my water comes from. But thinking about who built my Brita filter and who got that to Target or wherever I got it, and thinking about how they played a role in this ability for me to have the water I'm drinking that nourishes my life. And then the water bottle itself, who designed it, who created it, what materials are in it from nature, all of the food that those people needed to eat so they could go to their job and help create this water bottle, the rain that helped the plants grow for them to have their food, and so on. And it can just be this really expansive process. This is just one object in my home. Every piece of anything in my home involves countless other beings that helped make it possible. And so feeling that kind of interconnection can really dissolve the sense of aloneness we feel when we're having a hard time. And remember all the people who have been through difficulty and find strength in their resilience too. All right, and the last piece is self-kindness. And then after this, I'm gonna take a breath and allow any comments or questions to be a part of this conversation. Self-kindness is, really at the heart of this, and this is where the creativity comes in around what self-compassion means. So instead of judging ourselves, blaming ourselves, hurting ourselves in our words or our actions, we're practicing kindness when life is hard. And it's a desire to alleviate our own pain, to say, hey, I'm having a hard time. I want to be there to support myself and nurture myself and protect myself from harm. And a lot of it, some phrases that people have said in teaching this is talking about giving ourselves grace and understanding, which I really love that wording. And it's not just soothing ourselves and being nurturing. That's a really beautiful way for self-compassion to be expressed. But it's also this really active action that we're taking on behalf of ourselves that sometimes can include ferocity, can include a strong no and boundaries. We're advocating for ourselves or motivating ourselves. And so allowing self-compassion to not just be, oh, the sweet, hand on the heart moment, like this lovely cartoon woman is hugging herself. That's a lovely expression of self-compassion. But it's also this discipline that we have to care for ourselves and protect ourselves by stopping the things that cause us harm, standing up for ourselves. And we can do this in the words, the way that we speak to ourselves, the way that we think about ourselves, the emotions that we are managing, how we treat our bodies, and then whatever spiritual practices or relationships we have. Self-compassion can infuse every dimension of how we are. And there's so many practices. I just brought up a few, and we're not going to do any of these in this moment. But one of my favorites is writing a letter to ourselves from a compassionate inner voice. And I can share resources where you can follow prompts to guide you and really get clear on what your self-compassionate voice sounds like. What words do you need to hear on your worst day? What are the things you need to hear when you are really down? Maybe it's, you're strong enough, you can get through this. Maybe it's, you're whole and complete just as you are. Who knows? It could be a lyric from a song, it could be a poem. But really clarifying what words you need to hear on your hardest days and expressing that to yourself through these words. And some people like to do meditations to steep themselves in a compassionate view. One of my favorites is choosing actions that your future self will thank you for. And this can be really ordinary. It's just being at the grocery store and saying, hey, we're not out of milk yet, but I'm gonna get a couple extra cartons. And so I'll be really grateful that I already have milk in the fridge, when it goes out. Just things like that. It's like a little gift from your past self that you can feel appreciative of. And be creative. It can be anything under the sun that you deem as a compassionate act to yourself. And so you get to decide, is it being in nature? Is it creating art? Is it watching a movie? Is it cooking? Is it cleaning? Who knows? Those are some of the more ordinary things, but it can be a whole ritual you make up for yourself. And it's really fun to let this be creative. So here's my permission slip, and then I'm going to pause the screen sharing to just tell you, you are worthy of the time, the attention, and the energy that's required to give to yourself and receive what you need. And I'll say it one more time. You, as you are right now, however you feel, no matter what you've accomplished or not accomplished, anything, you are worthy of the time, attention, and energy that's required to give to yourself and receive what you need. And I say this because if my friend went to the grocery store for me and spent all that time, you know, going to the grocery store, getting me all the things I would need for a meal, you know, doing the list of figuring out what ingredients I need, all of like the inconveniences of going to a grocery store, if they did that for me, I would be so taken aback by the generosity of that friend. But when I do that for myself, I'm just like, whatever, it's a chore I have to do, moving along. But if I could appreciate myself for taking care of myself in that way, but was able to see the ways I'm really supporting my own well-being in these ordinary things, it would be such an empowering way to shift the ordinary to be extraordinary. So I just wanted to take a pause because I've been talking for a good 25 or so minutes and just give some space to say what questions are coming up for you as I share these things. Are there concerns about the realisticness of applying self-compassion? Is there skepticism? I welcome all of it.
Well, I'll go.
Yeah.
I'm always the first. No, I just felt a lot of nurturing. I mean, I could feel my whole system kind of soften with the exercises you led us through. And just some general anxiety I had this morning seems to be gone. So the embodying part I really felt, and I thank you for that.
Thank you, Brenda. And we didn't practice those with the intentions to get rid of anything in our experience. You know, we're just being with it, and that being with gives it permission to come and then fall away. You know, emotions are energy in motion. When we allow them, there's a flow. You know, when we resist them or judge the feeling, like judge ourselves for having the feeling, that makes them last a lot longer instead of just allowing. And then it moves through us. What else is coming up for folks? I see a raised hand, but I'm not sure.
I'm not sure if that's me or not.
It is you, yes.
Oh, okay. I love what you said about going to the grocery store and looking at that as nurturing yourself. Usually when I go to the grocery store, I'm usually playing beat the clock to see how quickly I can get in and get out. I make it a kind of a fun game for myself. But I love the idea of it being really nurturing because, as you said, if somebody else did that for you, you would be so grateful. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I don't see your name. I see a phone number, but thank you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and as that person shared, that can be done with so many other exercises. Cleaning the toilet, you know, things that normally we would really dislike doing. Paying taxes, or, you know, just things that can be quite burdensome at times. We can bring that energy to it, and it becomes a quality of caring for ourselves. Yeah, Julie, did you have a question or comment?
I was just going to say that, you know, I've been practicing Buddhism for a long time, or that's my aspiration. And just sitting down and breathing and meditating is a hugely helpful thing. And I find too that sometimes because we can't fix the world, and sitting down and accepting the way it is in the moment takes a lot of pressure off, because there's this personal or inner demand somehow that we're going to fix something that's really out of the realm of possibility for us. And then all this frustration arises because of that, and all the accompanying physical and emotional backlash. And especially now during this time of COVID, it's an impossible situation in some ways. So we can't really manage the world or even people that we're close to. So I agree that your exercises are good, and any kind of stepping back and slowing down is helpful. Yeah. For sure. And you know, when I go to the grocery store these days, that's the only time I usually see people, because I live alone. So it's an adventure. I look forward to it because I get to be around other people, even if I don't talk to them. It just feels like, okay, yeah, it's the world that I'm sort of familiar with.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Julie. Yes, I think it can cause a lot of frustration when we see us as this singular individual and this huge world out there that is separate from us, or that, you know, we can somehow fix from our individual standpoint. But when we remember this interconnectedness that's part of common humanity, we can realize that when I work with finding ways to be with my whole self, you know, I love Frank Ostaseski's work, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. And he has a quote talking about wholeness, you know, doesn't mean perfection, it means no part left out. And so when we can sit with ourselves and be with the pain and the suffering and the confusion and the judgment and all the things that are messy and imperfect, being able to hold that capacity for ourselves allows us to hold that capacity for other people, people who are different from us in many ways, who we disagree with, who we have a hard time understanding. We can see our interconnectedness the more we are with our whole self. So it really is an important practice to learn how to love and accept the parts of ourselves that are difficult, that are hurting, so that we can be with others in that same way. And that, I think, is a lot more empowering than trying to fix or change other people, because we have some agency and some power over how we are with ourselves. And that's our greatest, you know, sphere of influence, is starting right here within us. So I'm going to translate. This is a good jumping point into talking about self-compassion and how that's relevant to our work caring for others and being in relationship with others. So I'll share my screen again. So, you know, this is the greatest metaphor of all time. It's why it was a great title for this talk, about putting your oxygen mask on first, and how that relates to being a caregiver. And also the other metaphor people often use is, you can't pour from an empty cup. So what's beautiful about self-compassion for people who are in caregiving roles, which if you're in hospice work, you certainly are, and you know, sometimes with aging parents or other family members, and just being humans, we're caring for each other to various capacities. So this skill provides us the resources that are needed to be there for other people. Gives us the oxygen we need, gives us the water that we need. And one of the main reasons this works so well, aside from just, you know, filling our resources, our energy to be able to be with people during difficult times, is that we're connected with people and we resonate with people. And so when someone's really struggling and we meet their struggle with anxiety and stress, that you're resonating with each other. And when you're choosing to be with people who are going through difficult times, which is usually what's happening during hospice care, you are resonating with various difficult emotions of these folks and their families. And so it's important for you to take care of yourself so that you can help them resonate with your regulated, settled nervous system. Because if you're being stressed out by their stress, it's just going to be more stress happening between you. But if you can show up grounded and centered and resourced and spacious and loving, that can help bring them to a more settled state. But often what happens, because we're human and we're often working really hard and not resourcing ourselves very well, is that we can experience things that have many different names. Maybe you've heard of compassion fatigue or empathy fatigue. I'm going to be using the terms empathetic distress or over-identification, but they're referring to a similar experience. And it occurs when you are focusing on your own distress caused by resonating with someone else's pain. And so there often is a lack of boundaries happening, or you don't have the energy it takes to keep holding those boundaries, because it takes energy and diligence to hold emotional boundaries. So if you're tired, haven't slept, haven't eaten much, it's a lot harder to be managing and regulating your emotions. And so someone else's pain can affect you really easily, and that can cause distress. And so this can interfere with our desire to be with people who are struggling. It can lead us to feel burnt out, to resent work we're doing, to have shorter ability to be patient, to not think as clearly. And so this is something that self-compassion is really helpful for preventing. And I really love this image. It's kind of a blurry old image. I'm not sure where it's from, but it provides a really valuable view of what different ways of relating to people who are struggling look like. So here's the person who's receiving care. And this is the person we are supporting. When we're over-identifying or experiencing empathetic distress, we just resonate right there with them and just are like, wow, this is really hard. This feels awful. And now I feel awful too. And often this comes from remembering an emotion similar to them, remembering a similar time when you felt distressed, grief or loss. And then this can be kind of a self-focused view of your own pain and difficulty with the situation. And when you're here, it's hard to be helpful because now you're both stuck in this hole, this mud hole. Another way that sometimes people respond to struggling is looking over the hole and kind of saying like, oh, that looks really hard down there, but too bad. I have other things I need to do. And it might look like this person has boundaries, but it's not very supportive or comforting when someone is kind of looking down on you when you're having a hard time and just saying like, that looks icky and hard. I'm not going to try to understand what you're feeling. I just know I don't want to feel it, and I'm not interested in caring. Whereas this person who has compassion is being willing to feel what this person's feeling. They're in the hole with them, but they're holding on to their inner resources. They have a way out of the hole. They have boundaries. And I find this image really helpful because we do need to empathize with others, because that is what allows, real connection to happen. This person's not really empathizing. This person is empathizing too much. And this person is empathizing, but they have boundaries and they want to help this person. And they know that in order to help them, they have to be resourced themselves. They have to take care of themselves, and they have to have a way out of this hole so they can show them the way out. So hopefully this image clarifies. A lot of these terms are thrown around. I'm not trying to demonize sympathy. Sympathy isn't bad. It's just sometimes that's all we can really offer based on what's going on in our lives. But we can be skillful in how we express sympathy. And this is not super helpful, because it would be great if they were like, look, I can't come in the hole with you, but here's a rope. This helped me last time. But this person's not willing to really empathize. So here is the goal of having compassion and resonating with others, and holding the boundaries. So we're going to do a practice with that right now. I'm just going to check because I see some chat. Okay, so the visualization makes sense to Lenora. That's great. Have compassion for yourself as I do for others. Yes. Yes, this person has compassion for themselves and for the others. And that's actually what's the most helpful thing to do. So this is a practice called Compassion with Equanimity, and this is one of the practices in the Self-Compassion for Healthcare Communities program that I helped to adapt that really resonates with folks who are in healthcare positions and are seeing their patients go through difficult times. So I'll read these phrases to you in the practice, but the beginning of the practice begins with some breathing. So get your body in a position that allows you to feel as comfortable as you can, so you can breathe, notice some difficult feelings. Someone wants to see, possible to go back to the image right before the mud hole. Is this the image you were thinking of, Heidi? We'll come back to it if you still have any questions. So in this practice, you might take a supportive gesture if that resonated with you earlier, bringing your hands on the heart or someplace else that you found comforting. And you're welcome to close your eyes if you want, or you can just lower and soften the gaze. And just take a moment to meet yourself as you are. Just noticing what's alive for you in this moment, in this body. And then bring to mind, perhaps there's someone you're in relationship with. Maybe you're a caregiver to them in an explicit way where, it's someone you're seeing at the hospice center. Maybe it's a parent or a child. But if you can, perhaps thinking of someone you've worked with in a hospice context who has struggled in some way. And their struggle has been difficult for you. It's been hard to manage. You might notice uncomfortable sensations or thoughts that come up as you remember the interactions that were hard to witness. And choosing something that's mild to moderate. So if you had some pretty traumatic or difficult situations, don't use those for this practice right now. Choose something that was mild to moderate. It was difficult and uncomfortable, but manageable to feel in this moment. So returning to sensation of your hands on your body or the soles of your feet, keeping yourself grounded as you remember this painful interaction. And first, just begin with compassion for yourself by just naming, this is hard. This is painful. It's hard to see someone suffer. And perhaps acknowledging, this is how it feels when people struggle in this way, when people go through these situations, this is how it feels. I'm not alone in feeling this way. And then maybe offering a phrase of kindness for yourself. What do you need to hear right now to feel supported, cared for? accepted for the wholeness of who you are. Maybe it's the words, "I'm here for you." You can do hard things. Just taking a moment to rest in this self-compassionate phrase, knowing if there's no words that are emerging right now, that's perfectly okay. Maybe there's words that you would say to a good friend going through this that can inspire you. Maybe there's words someone has told you before that have felt really supportive and generous. And just letting this experience of even being willing to offer yourself kindness, receiving that you're even trying, you're showing up here to give yourself this nurturing, caring, loving attention. And as you breathe in, imagine you can breathe in your own compassion for yourself, letting it nourish you and fill you. Just breathing in, and as you breathe out, just resting in that, resting in your own loving, connected presence. Breathing in this compassion for yourself, breathing out, resting in receiving. And just knowing this self-compassionate resource is already and always there for you as we transition and move our attention back to this person who is suffering that we were caring for. And thinking of the situation, listening to these words. Everyone is on their own life journey. I am not the cause of this person's suffering, nor is it entirely within my power to make it go away, even though I wish I could. Moments like this are difficult to bear, yet I may still try to help if I can. Everyone is on their own life journey. I am not the cause of this person's suffering, nor is it entirely within my power to make it go away, even though I wish I could. Moments like this are difficult to bear, yet I may still try to help if I can. Just holding these compassionate words in your heart. And feeling this inner balance of compassion for yourself and compassion for this other. And if you'd like, for these last couple minutes of the practice, you can offer this exchange of compassion on the breath. Breathing in, compassion for yourself, for the difficulty of feeling what you're feeling. And breathing out, offering compassion to the person you're caring for. imagining them feeling peaceful, relieved from whatever their struggle is as you breathe out. And as you breathe in, continuing to refill and resource yourself. Letting your breath be this flow in this ocean of compassion. There's enough compassion for you and for them. Feeling this abundance of compassion flowing on the inhales and exhales. Feeling these last few breaths as a gift to yourself, nourishing yourself, and as an offering to the other, supporting and caring for them to the best of your ability. And gently releasing the breath exercise, releasing any focus on anything in particular, and just feeling yourself in this moment again. Maybe that means with a hand on the heart, and just scanning your body, noticing what sensations are present. Grounding into the soles of your feet or the palms of your hands. And letting yourself feel whatever you feel and be just as you are. As this practice ends, self-compassion is still here, even in how you meet yourself at the end of a practice with whatever came up for you. And so opening your eyes if you close them, reorienting to this space, maybe noticing shapes and colors, light and shadow around you. And so this is a practice that can be done longer or shorter than how we did it. And I kind of did a little remix by adding a self-compassion break in the beginning and finishing with the compassion with equanimity. But the idea is that we can hold compassion for ourselves and for the others. They are not mutually exclusive. And that the more we hold compassion for ourselves, the more space we have to hold compassion for others. And so this phrase can be a really helpful thing to return to. And in teaching this practice, you know, some people have found that replacing a person's suffering with other things can be helpful. You know, at the hospital we were teaching at, some people found it useful to say, I am not the cause of this hospital's lack of resources, you know, because that was causing stress for this person. Or, you know, in working in hospice and interacting potentially with people's families, you know, I'm not the cause of their family dynamics I'm witnessing, or I'm not the cause of their expectations. And just letting that be a reminder that we can only do the best we can with what we have within our capacity. And another set of phrases that I find really lovely comes from a book called What Really Helps, which is a really lovely book on caring for other people. And this is actually not from the author of that book, but someone who wrote the foreword. And he offers the phrase, may I show all the love I have in any way I can, in every here and now, to everyone on earth, including me, since love is what we are and why. So that's a really lovely thing to remember. And then of course, there's the really common phrase, but it's a helpful phrase. I think it's one of the best things to strive for, is to have the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So finding the phrases that work for you, that allow you to have this balanced compassion. So I'm going to pause again before I finish the last few minutes and just check in with what's alive for people right now. What feelings are here? What questions are here?
I had a little bit of an epiphany, and that was before I go to visit somebody who is dying. I'm trying to be centered, and basically it's, I go very, very big, you know, may I be a blessing, blah, blah, blah. And I think it's far more reasonable for me to show the self-compassion, you know, and bring it right down to me and being present in the moment and not worrying about the larger implications. That's all going to take care of itself. So it was a moment of humbling.
Thank you for that, Sandy. Yes, humbling is, I think, full of grace. And really one of the best things we can do is embody self-compassion for others. And by embodying that, it can show people how to be with themselves in their moments of dying, and what better way to die than with compassion for ourselves, you know, to love and accept who we are, how we lived as fully as possible. And so by modeling that and working with them is such a gift. So thank you for that. And that, to me, that is a blessing. Being able to show our messiness is actually a huge gift and blessing to other people. So the last few thoughts, we have a comment. Self-awareness. As an independent-minded nurturer, I realize I'm very comfortable with being there for others, yet have some difficulty accepting help from others without labeling it as weakness on my part. Japanese term wabi-sabi, being perfectly imperfect, helps to rebalance with acceptance. However, I wonder, any practice to assist with this disconnect? Great question, Ellie. Yes, and there's also an art form that's escaping my memory right now in Japanese art, where there are cracks in a bowl and they're filled with gold. And that is also a beautiful reminder that the so-called imperfections we have are actually the most beautiful parts of us, because it's a reminder of our humanity. And so I think this is where self-compassion comes in, is just acknowledging that it's hard to accept help. We don't have to fix that difficulty necessarily. Maybe it will change, but just saying that that's hard to accept help, and just starting there without needing to get rid of that part of us that seems like it's hypocritical or disconnected or something, because it's actually totally human to feel that way. And it's not surprising. Our culture really does promote this idea that needing help is weak, even though, like I said, I can't get anything without the help from other people. You know, no one's here without the help of at least two humans loving each other, or, you know, creating life in some way. So we need each other, and we have to discipline ourselves to remember that and to let that be okay, because so much messages otherwise is telling us that that's not okay. So I would just have compassion for the fact that it's hard to feel that way, Ellie. And I've like very little time left for a topic that is so rich, which is integrity. But I will just show this slide because I think I want you to reflect on this on your own. It would really inspire me to know that perhaps you reflected on this on your own, because I find it to be the real gem of self-compassion. So I will share this and then quickly move on and let you all go. But I'll just say, when we consider the impermanence of our lives, it calls us to remember what matters most. And facing death in the work that you all are doing is a confrontation with impermanence, quite profoundly and potently. And the season of 2020, of the loss and the death and the injustice and the heartbreak we've witnessed, has also been a true reminder of remembering what matters to us. How do I really want to spend my life? And when we do this, when we honor how we want to spend our lives and we align our actions with this, this is an act of integrity. And I say that integrity is the most profound act of self-compassion. Because when we start living what someone else says our life should be, we're really abandoning our values in that way. And it can be really heartbreaking to notice when we've done that. And so that's why this work really needs forgiveness of ourselves for not living in integrity. We need to be honest with ourselves where we're out of alignment, diligent with ourselves to keep committing to remembering our values, trusting ourselves, and allowing for the wholeness of ourselves. That means allowing for our hypocrisy, allowing for our inability to discipline ourselves or remember what matters, our habit of distraction, welcoming all of that. That's totally part of being human. And I don't think integrity is like perfectly lining up every second of our life with some like noble act. I think it's being human and loving ourselves for all of it. So I leave with you today. Thank you for all your time and energy to just reflect on how you want to feel and be in each of your days. Knowing, no day is guaranteed. So what really matters today? And can that allow us to lighten up on the things we get stressed about, where it's like, oh, I forgot this thing at the grocery store. I'm so careless. I was texting on my phone and I got distracted. Can we instead remember, oh, what really matters is giving myself grace. That's what I want to remember at the end of my life, is that I was full of grace for myself and other people. Not that I got everything on the grocery list every time. That's not what's important. So letting this be an act of self-compassion. But remembering this can bring up a lot. So having forgiveness for whatever comes up in this reflection, and then welcoming all of it, the wholeness of what comes up, including our lovely hypocrisy and confusion and all the things that we judge ourselves for, that too. So thank you for all of your time and attention. It means a lot to be able to be a part of this conference with you all. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm happy to be a resource. You can share my email, Brenda, if anyone has any other questions.
Marissa, thank you so much. I think fate smiled greatly on us when I reached out and you answered the call for us. This was wonderful. Thank you for your time. And this is recorded, everyone, so the slides are available to you if you go back through the recording as well, because there's some gems that, without everybody watching me, I want to make sure that I put down. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Brenda.
So now we're going to segue, and up next we have an opportunity for some movement and some more tools that we can actually put into our life. Our next presenter will share about Qigong. I've been practicing and I've said it correctly, I think. And it's an investment in physical, emotional, and spiritual health. Qigong includes controlled breathing, gentle movements, and mindful intentions, leaving the student feeling less stress and a noticeable increase in energy. I'd like to introduce CJ Noddings, In addition to her 30-year career working with seniors and hospice patients, CJ is a certified Qigong instructor. After years of personal Qigong practice, CJ decided to deepen her skills and understanding of this relatively easy yet highly effective Eastern medical practice. She has been teaching Qigong for 1.5 years. Along with her certification in Qigong, CJ holds bachelor's degrees in health, education, and gerontology. And additionally, CJ serves as the chairman of the board for the Sacramento Hospice Consortium. So we're so lucky to have her and have her here today. So welcome, CJ.
Thank you, Brenda. Appreciate being here. And that was just a wonderful presentation about self-compassion, just fabulous. And, you know, Qigong, you know, what it does is it does help reduce stress. So you have time to fill yourself up. What does Qi mean? Qi, it means life force energy. And Gong means work or skill. So what Qigong is energy work or being skilled at working with your energy. It is, as Brenda said, it's an ancient practice, and it has several branches. And one of them is a spiritual, one is martial arts, and one is medical. And the one I'm going to be focusing on today is medical. And that'll include breath work, activation of that life force energy, warming up our body, stretching, lines of tension. We will work on some very gentle flows to help move and circulate that energy. We practice it because we want to feel a sense of deep relaxation. We're all pretty relaxed after that, after the last session. So you might already start out that way because it really helped relax us all. But it gives us a sense of deep relaxation. It helps improve our concentration and our focus. And it helps us pay attention not only to what we're feeling, but our body and our mind and our emotions. And then also it really helps with vitality. And it is a preventive medicine that focuses on controlled breathing and gentle movement and mindful intention. So we are going to be moving a little bit. And I just want to say, if you have any kind of pain or discomfort, please stop, because Qigong is meant to be very soft and comfortable. And so if you feel any, I'm going to do real basic, but if you feel any kind of pain or discomfort, please do stop the movement. Are there any questions before I start or comments? No? Okay. If you could stand up, you could also do this sitting down, but if you can stand up, that would be great. And you want to stand with your feet shoulder width apart. Knees soft. And I'm going to move this a little bit here so you see my body here. Okay. Your knees are nice and soft, and we're going to just start with vertical alignment. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that our feet are grounded. We can even lift our toes and then put them back down. And notice that your toes, the balls of your feet, the center of your foot and your heels are evenly distributed on the ground, the earth, the carpet, whatever you're on. And then you look to your knees, that they're nice and soft. They're bent, but they're soft. Your tailbone is slightly tucked so that your abdomen is just slightly pressed towards the spine. And then your chin is tucked in and the top of your head is facing up towards the universe. And this is what our vertical alignment looks like and feels like. We're connecting the top of our head to the universe while we're connecting the soles of our feet to the earth, with us, nature in the center. We're going to go ahead and start with deep abdominal breath, which we were doing in the last of session, we're going to go ahead and place our hands gently over our abdomen below our belly button. And from here, we're just going to inhale deep, long, slow, soft breaths while our belly just expands. We're relaxing our belly as we inhale. And as we exhale, we press our navel towards our spine. Deep, long, soft inhale. Deep, long, soft exhale. Calming the mind, getting into the present moment. The present moment is what we have. And by paying attention to our breath, we're paying attention in the present moment. 2 more breaths. Nice, long, slow, deep, but soft breaths. Expanding your belly. And on the exhale, pressing the navel against the spine. And after that last exhale, go ahead and place your hands down at your sides. Shoulders are nice and relaxed. You're still in that vertical alignment with your chin tucked and your head towards the universe, but your shoulders are dropped. Go ahead and step 1 foot out, little wider, as wide as you comfortably can. Knees are still bent. And we're going to go ahead and move from our center by just knocking on the front and then the back as we move from side to side. This is called knocking on the door of life. The door of life is an acupressure point directly behind the belly button on the back. There are also several acupressure points back there too, but we're activating now. We're waking up our organs, our liver and our gallbladder on our right, our spleen and our stomach on our left, and our kidneys and adrenals are in the back. So we're waking up these organs, letting them know that we're going to move chi around by knocking and just gently tapping on the front and back of each of those sides as we tap on the back. You want to continue to take nice, natural breaths as you move and moving from your center. Shoulders are relaxed. Your arm is just swinging around with the turn of the waist. And at the very end, the hand taps on the sides and on the back. And then take a loose fist and go up to the corner of where your shoulder blade and your collarbone meet. Here is the beginning of what's called lungs 1 and 2 acupressure points, which are for helping enhancing the breathing. So you could take these nice, long, deep, soft, calming breaths, opening up your lung capacity. And then take that hand slightly cupped over your shoulder so that you're relaxing that trapezius muscle that's on the top. Just trying to visualize that muscle softening and relaxing as you tap it to remind it to relax and soften. And then bring it back to lungs 1 and 2, that corner here. We're just gently tapping on the chest as we continue to move from our center. Nice, long, deep, soft breaths. Staying here in the present moment and then going and tapping where we started at the bottom. Continue to breathe. Nice, gentle, long, soft breaths. Just unwinding, getting ready to completely relax. And then slowly here, we're going to take our arms away from our body And we're going to go ahead and go into what's called water waves, where we're noticing ourselves and what's around us, the energy that's all around us. Feeling it through our fingertips, noticing how our clothes feel on our body, noticing how we feel emotionally right now, taking that time to go a little bit internal. This is a moving meditation part of Qigong, which is mindful intention and movement combined. Nice breaths as you take a moment to take notice of your breath. Take notice of your heart rate. Notice that you are not alone. There's energy all around you. An abundance of energy that you can utilize for your self-compassion and healing. And then slowly bring it back to the front. And bring your hands over your thighs and make loose fists, but they're soft. Knees are bent. And we're going to take a breath as we come up and open our arms. Inhale, looking up. And then we bring our forearms together with our fists facing up, rounding our shoulders, exhaling. Moving the spine, warming up the spine. Go with your own breath. Inhale as you open. Exhale as you bring those forearms and fists facing up together. Nice and slow, open up. You can do some visualization here, which helps with intention. I like to tell Qigongers to visualize golden light coming into your chest. And then as you exhale, exhale out gray, murky energy that you no longer need and give it to the earth. Take in, let go. Four more. Keep the intention. Use a visualization that works for you. That golden light of the sunshine and then earth taking in our energy and recycling it for us. And on this last one, open up and hold. Take a breath in. Exhale. One more breath in. And as we exhale, we're going to make a sound called, it's this. And we're going to bring our hands back down. And one hand on top of the other with the fingertips facing in the opposite direction. We're going to do ribcage flow to open up our lung capacity and breathing onto our side ribs. And as we inhale, we're going to go ahead and bring our arms up and hold with the palms in opposite directions at the top. Fingertips in opposite directions. Exhale. Now take a breath in and tilt over and breathe into that side rib as you inhale. And then straighten yourself back out and spiral the hands around so the pinkies are facing you as you go and change hands in the center, exhaling. And then inhale to the other side. And exhale, spiraling the hands around so the pinkies are facing you on the exhale. And then inhale. Visualize the energy going into that side rib. Breathing into the sides of your lungs. One more each side. And then bringing that hand down, and then both hands at your chest with loose fists, and gently tap up and down on each side of your sternum, releasing any tension in your heart center. Moving the energies, releasing the tension. Take a breath in. And go ahead and place your hands over your chest without touching them, fingers outstretched. And just notice if you feel any energy moving around in that area you were just tapping. And hands go out, stretch, and then turn them back over. Inhale into your chest. Exhale. Rounding your shoulders at a navel towards your spine. Inhaling into the center. Exhaling out. Two more. Last one. Exhale. Bring your hands down. Rotate them so the palms are facing up. Hands face up, palms up. This is called lower embracing the tree position. Shoulders are relaxed. We're in nice vertical alignment. Taking 2 breaths here. Deep into our abdomen and then letting it go. Navel towards our spine. Inhale, expanding your abdomen. Exhale, navel towards your spine. And bring those hands behind you with the backs of your hands on your back on each side of your spine. And we're going to knock up and down. We're tapping up and down. That whole door of life area that we worked on before. Activating the back. Kidneys, adrenals. The acupressure points here. And then take your hands over your waist just above your hips and let's circle those hips around. Nice circle. And it's a nice warm up here before we do a couple of letting go exercises. One of the things that my master teacher has taught is that letting go is more than intention. We physically need to get that stress out of our muscles, out of our bodies. So we're going to do a couple of exercises to do that since we're almost warmed up, and go ahead and change to the other direction. Nice circle, warming up your hips. And one more. And then back to the center. Okay, we're going to do a letting go exercise where the intention is to pull out the emotions that we no longer need. And we're going to give it to the earth for recycling. We're going to use an animal metaphor, the tiger. The tiger is a symbol of strength and power. And it is the animal in the season of fall. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take our fingers like little claws and turn them towards our belly. And then what we're going to do is we're going to inhale as we come up. And this is where we visualize pulling out with our tiger claws what we no longer need. And then we rotate our hands back, bend our knees, keeping in a nice vertical alignment, exhaling, visualizing giving to the earth. And then we come up, inhale, and then exhale, give to the earth what you no longer need. Inhale, taking out the emotion, exhaling, giving it away. Keep the intention and visualization. Mind leads the energy. We want to focus on letting go. 2 more. Last one. And back up. Bring your feet in just a tad closer. Arms at your sides. And there's so many similarities to the last presentation, but this is called shaking. We start with shaking our hands. Shaking, shaking, shaking. We're going to just let go of any tension. We're going to start in our hands and our arms, dropping our shoulders. And then we're going to go ahead and add our legs and our hips, and we can even bounce into our heels. And just, we're going to take a breath in and shake it off. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your mouth, letting it go, letting any tension go. It's like a child having a tantrum. They have a tantrum and then they're done and they're happy. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to shake off that tension. Children can teach us a lot. 2 more. 2 more breaths. And slow it down. Nice and slow. And let's go back into that lower embracing the tree position. Notice if you feel tingling, buzzing, the movement of energy all the way to the end of your fingertips. That movement of chi, energy that we want to move and circulate through our body so that it doesn't become stagnant. Stagnation causes emotional distress. It causes illness. The whole purpose of medical Qigong is prevention. And here we want to prevent emotional distress, illness, and being able to handle life on a day-to-day basis. We've did some deep breathing. We've done some activation. We've done some warm-ups. And we've done some letting go. And so now we're going to go into what everybody really loves about Qigong the most. And that is flows. Moving our bodies like water. Moving in a effortless way that gives us effortless power to circulate the energy through our bodies. This is also a form of moving meditation. And so we really want our mind to be focused and clear on what we are trying to achieve, with our intentions for today, and for your intention of taking this for yourself to feel good so that you can help others because you feel so good for yourself. So we're going to start with what's called open the flow, just to get us started. We're going to bring our hands down and we're going to take a breath in as we gently bring our arms up. And then we exhale as we float them back down. On the inhale, we slightly come up on the balls of our feet. So our hips slightly come forward. And then on the exhale, we go the balls of our feet slightly back. The heels of our feet. So we come up on the balls of our feet a little bit more, and then exhale. Heels of our feet. So we're doing a gentle rocking of our body as we're floating our arms up. The intention here is to be in the present moment. Focus on your breath. Letting go of any worries or stress. Focusing on your breath, what we have at this moment. And inhale up and exhale down. Doing less, thinking less, and letting what naturally comes come forth. 2 more. Open, inhale. Exhale down. And back up. We're going to do 5 flows, which are called the 5 elements. And the 5 elements are what are the 5 elements of organs in our body systems. Each element affects an organ system. And when we put the 5 elements together, we feel really good because we've worked on each of our 5 main organ systems. So the first one we're going to start with is called the metal element, and it's focused on the lungs. And what we're going to do here is we're going to start in that lower embracing the tree position that I showed you earlier. And then we're going to take an exhale here. As you inhale, rise your arms up and then turn them so that your palms face up on the ceiling, and we're going to exhale back down, turning those hands over again. Rotating back into that lower embracing the tree position. Inhale up. This is called Buddha holds up the earth. Exhale down. Little pause at the bottom, and then an inhale. Little pause, holding the breath, and then exhaling down. Inhale up, letting that energy rise all the way up. Exhale down. Inhaling courage and inspiration. Exhaling sadness and grief. Keep those intentions. Exhaling sadness, letting that go. Inhaling, being inspired. Two more. Inhale up, pause at the top of the breath. Exhale. Pause at the bottom of the breath. Last one. Inhale, inspiration. Exhale, letting go. The next element is water. Water, when it's positive emotions of water, are peacefulness and tranquility. We're going to work with an exercise called a fountain to enhance our feelings of peacefulness. We're going to go ahead and start by hinging lightly at the waist and pushing away any barriers that we no longer need, bringing the backs of our hands together in the center, pulling up the energy of water up through our spine and just underneath our jaw. We exhale out to the side. Come back down. Inhale up. This is called the fountain. Inhaling in peacefulness and tranquility. Exhaling out any kind of fear or anxiety. Pushing away any barriers. Pulling up peacefulness, pulling it all the way up our spine. Exhaling, letting go of any fear. Move like water, gentle, soft, and flow. Four more. And last one, pull it up. Peacefulness, the softness of water throughout your body, letting go. Exhale. Back into lower, embracing the tree. Next element is the wood element. The wood element, when we are feeling good about our emotions, we feel generous. We feel creative. When we're out of balance emotionally, the wood element, we could feel frustrated. We could feel angry. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to enhance that ability to feel that generosity and creativity. And then we're going to go ahead and turn to your right side. Take a breath in as you pull that energy up. Fingertips toward the top of your head, and then exhale out to your sides. Other side. Inhale up, exhale out. Moving with the breath, moving with the breath, our body and emotions, all working together as one. Pulling at that sense of creativity, kindness, one more time on each side. And bring those hands down at your side. And the next element is the fire element. And that's where we bring joy and compassion into our heart. One hand facing the earth, the other hand at our chest. We shift our weight and then turn at the waist, rotating. And then at the end of the rotation, we shift our hands and shift our weight and turn to the other side. We gently move, shifting from side to side, gathering energy, pulling it into our heart center, bringing joy and compassion into our hearts. Inhale normally, just long, slow, gentle, deep breaths. Inhale and turn side to side and visualize pulling compassion into your heart center. One more time on each side. Last one. And then back to the center and bending your knees and shifting your, bending at the waist. Bring your hands out as you exhale and then straighten your legs and inhale, pulling in to your lower abdomen. This is the earth element focused on balance and centering. Gaining our centering and balance, inhaling, pulling that energy into our abdomen. Exhaling out, inhaling in. Last one. And to finish it off, we're going to clear with 2 breaths coming up at our sides and exhaling down the center. Gathering energy into the palms of your hands, fingertips, arms. Pull it down from your head all the way down to your lower dantian. And when you get to the bottom, bring your feet closer together. And hands over your lower abdomen. And let's take 2 breaths here. Breathing into our center. Feeling relaxed and calm, settled, and ready to do our work of compassion and care for others by caring for ourselves. Okay, that was a little introduction on Qigong. Thank you for those that were doing it. I appreciate it.
Thank you, CJ. Now, and we ran a little bit over, so I'll be real quick wrapping up, but CJ, do you teach classes that people can take, or?
Yes, I teach on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock. And I do it on Zoom because of the whole COVID. Yeah. So if anybody's interested, I could definitely, you could give them my email and they could contact me.
Okay, that's what I'm going to do. So when I do a wrap up, I'm going to send out the video. It's very funny, and then I'll wrap this up, that this is about self-compassion, time for ourselves. We had probably over 80 people sign up for this, and we probably had about 25 on the call today. And I've noticed whenever it comes to taking care of ourselves, we're not necessarily as good about setting aside the time. So thank you for all of you that did today. I will send you stuff from Marissa. I will also send you CJ's contact if you'd like to learn more. Stay tuned, because next week we're going to talk about how to have those brave conversations. So that'll be next Thursday, same time, 9:45 on the night. 11 on the 19th. No, 12th. Okay, I'm too relaxed. Between you and Marissa, I'm ready for a nap, and I have to go to work. So bless you all. Thank you. Thank you, Marissa, again. Thank you, CJ, again. And I hope everybody goes through their day with a little less stress and a lot more self-compassion today. Bye-bye.
Brenda.